Well, welcome into the podcast called The Point After from the Oklahoma Sports Network. And this is episode 5. We've kind of gone the gamut of all the spring sports. We talked soccer when we first started off. Well, we got done with the baseball season. And you got to have, for a football fanatic like myself, to really I could talk football 12 months of the year. I mean, literally, it's one of my favorite go-to sports, and we have some very special guests in with us today. They're going to talk a little bit about the change that the OSSAA was taken with. We'll just kind of say a court case. We kind of familiarized you with the 5 private schools that basically challenged the OSSAA from having to move up to up from where you were. If you were a 4A school, now you're going to play 6A, and so they were able to win that case, and then go back to the fall ruling of basically how it will go is just moving up one. And we're going to talk about how that affected Bishop McGuinness and Elgin, who basically had the same amount ADM, and one had to go up and the other one go down. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then so you have that. And then the next question with the coaches having to come to the OSSAA is, okay, what ADM are we going to take? Are we going to take last June's number, or are we going to take something more familiar with us in the fall of this year? And so they took the coach's decision to go with that like October date, and they decided that that is when you're going to start drawing the line. And so you take your top 32 and you just draw the line. You go down from there. And so the other interesting thing, which I think was kind of needed in the smaller schools, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the podcast when you get down to 2A and A, how they have done what 6A has done, because there's so many schools there. It was different for 6A 1 and 2. It was really the ADMs were top heavy, and so you just kind of divide it, and that was easy to do in those 32 to take 16 and 16. Well, this is a little bit different, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we get unveiling all of the districts, and we'll kind of go over all the ones that affect us, we want to bring in our special guest today. We have actually Chalmer Wyatt from the Elgin Owls and Coach Jeff Brickman from the Newcastle Racers. And first off, I'm going to go with you, Coach Brickman. Tell us a little bit about how your spring has gone and what it's looking like for you before you break and you go into summer camp.
It's the best spring we've had since I've been here. We were able to, because we're growing so fast, we were able to add 4 new coaches, which now we have a position coach for every position, offense and defense, and return, the bulk of our starters from last season. So they were real familiar with stuff that we already do. The defense hasn't changed. The offense terminology and things like that hadn't changed. And so it was a little rough the first day, and then after that, they kind of settled in, and I'm really, really pleased with everything that went on. We didn't have to miss any for weather. We had several. Part of our job too is to help kids at the next level. So we had several colleges in recruiting. Yesterday we had Oklahoma State University in Division I program. So everything was just about as good as you could hope for.
Now, I also want to talk a little bit about how this was, and I think most of you coaches have really kind of done well with the, it is what it is kind of thing, and you have to be flexible. And this is thrown at you, as I was talking to your athletic director about a month or so before all of this went down, and the idea with Newcastle and how they were growing was foreseeing the future that you would be a 5A school pretty soon, but maybe in the next couple of years. And I think it was a couple of weeks after that conversation, it all got thrown out the window, and you went from 4A to 5A, and we'll talk a little bit about the district that you will be in. But how did you handle that? And then your also your non-district schedule, which I think hats off to you. I mean, you wanted some old foes that you had. you took on that as your non-district schedule before you get in the district. What was your mindset talking about, how you wanted to prepare for your non-district now that you're a 5A school?
Well, the first question, I kind of saw it as 2 questions. First question is it's partly why I interviewed out here back in 2017 when they were looking to make a change for the football program. Is I'd coached at a 6A school for most of my career, had a little of a stint in college, but I remember the last time that I coached at the school I was at in 6A, we played Jinx in the playoffs at Jinx. And I remember before the game, I kind of knew it was going to be my last game there. And I was looking around and I could just kind of see where Jinx would have been kind of a smaller rural area adjacent to, Tulsa. And you could see how it was piecemealed. Like they didn't have a track around their field. They had a pretty small press box for a school like Jinx. And you can just kind of tell like they just added stands here, added stands there. And I remember back then I had this thought like, you shouldn't go looking for the next Jinx you shouldn't go looking for Jinx or someplace like that. You should look for the next Jinx. And just thinking about where we're located in the Tri-City area, similar to Elgin is to Lawton. It's just, migration patterns, cities get older and people move out and out and out. And I knew it was only a matter of time that, Newcastle was going to blow up as far as just an influx of people moving there. And I kind of just got here right in time to when that started happening. So it was all something I kind of thought would happen, and it is happening. And it's just kind of neat to kind of see the evolution of, maybe some of the next big programs that maybe, were smaller. And now they're kind of grown into their own. So that would be the first part. As far as the non-district goes, we had discussed before it even happened that if we switched with Elgin, then we would just agree ahead of time to play each other in the non-district so that when it happened, we weren't scrambling trying to find opponents. Because similar to us, Elgin's kind of the same thing in a different location, a growing place that lots of people are kind of migrating to. And so we're very similar. And we have a hard time getting people to play us in the non-district. And we just kind of agreed ahead of time, hey, if this thing goes down like the way we think it is, then let's just agree to play each other so we can guarantee that we have a game. But what I didn't know is that we were going to be put into 5A1 with Guyman, who plays independent. So not only did I have to find, 3 non-districts, which I had with Tuttle, Blanchard, and Elgin, because we did it ahead of time. But then with Guyman, I had to find a 4th non-district. And I was actually at a golf tournament that our boys golfers were at, trying to figure out how am I going to find a 4th team, and kind of going back and forth. And we had to move people around. And so we picked up Bartlesville, which is a 6A2 team. And that's kind of how our non-district got formed. You never know. It's just, you have events and then your response is what's going to determine the outcome. So that was kind of how it all went down.
Well, and I think Coach Wyatt will tell me too that, cash was important because that's a big rivalry. I guess, was that the same mindset about a Blanchard and Tuttle? I mean, this is, that Tri-City, everybody talks about it each and every year. And instead of saying, okay, well, now we're 5A and they'll make that go away, you're still keeping traditions alive there.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's just a big gate. I mean, they're natural rivalries, and they're fun. I mean, people talk about having a tough district or tough non-district, and you get into coaching to have fun, and it's not fun if you're playing teams that you're vastly better than. I mean, I like to win games, don't get me wrong, but I think the funnest part is having good competition. So I've really never been too concerned about playing good football teams. I believe that iron sharpens iron. So,
and then lastly for you, and then we'll get to Coach Wyatt here in just a second for the Elgin Owls. What about, are you going to go to a team camp? If so, where are you going to go? What you going to do? And what does summer look like for you?
Well, we agreed a couple of years ago to go to team camp with Mustang and Moore and Bishop McGinnis. And we were going to take turns hosting it at different sites. And we went to Mustang last year. And this year it was supposed to be at Moore, but they're putting in new turf. So they asked if we could host it at Newcastle, and I agreed to it. And then next thing I know, uh, Broken Arrow wanted to come. And so, as strange as it sounds, at Newcastle, America, we're going to have the largest school in the state, Broken Arrow, coming, the third largest school in Mustang, and then Moore, who's a big school, and then McGinnis, and then us. So we're hosting a team camp with all those guys.
Well, and you're also going to get a little spy in over there to kind of look at McGinnis, since we're talking about them. That is going to be a new district foe for you. So I'm sure that you'll have a little glance or two to kind of see what they're working on as well, which, it's all in there. And I know you get all the films for it, but certainly it's a great makeup for it. Well, Coach, I appreciate your willingness to be here. I know that we've had the benefits of watching your success in the 4A realm, and we wish you all the best in 5A coming up this year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So Coach Jeff Brickman, and now we're going to bring on for Coach Chalmer Wyatt of the Elgin Owls. I was able to get out there and see a little bit of spring before you're going to go off to your camp here tomorrow and Friday. But talk a little bit about your assessment as coaches do, and you kind of want to see who you are before leading into a summer break with Summer Pride. So talk a little bit about your spring and what you were excited to see with your team.
Yeah, we've been really pleased this spring. We've got a lot of pieces to fill from last year, and so it's been exciting to have guys, take that challenge on and also move guys around to try to get our guys in the best, position possible, find our best 11 on the field. And, that's what it's all about. Every year you got to replace guys, so you got to do a good job as a coaching staff. And we feel really good about it. And then, going into spring camp tomorrow at Carl Albert will be a really good sample to see where we're at versus some live action. So really pleased, and then really excited tomorrow to see where we're at across the field.
Well, a little chance to brag up. We had one of your athletes actually, and it's kind of weird how they are going to say when they're going to go to a certain school. It used to be like in a cafeteria, and you'd have the mirage of hats, and then everybody kind of pick one and throw one, and now they've kind of merged to do a social media thing. And this is what happened last night. I noticed, they make a big announcement, and they're not live in the cafeteria anymore. They're doing it all on social media. So now you got a young man that's going to go to Tennessee. And how cool is that? And talk a little bit about that process.
Man, it's been great. Ant's been great ever since he got here. The process has been awesome. We've had a ton of college coaches on campus, and coming to our practices and watching Ant and watching our whole program. So it's been really good. It's been a really, really cool process for me to kind of help where Ant needs me, or just to be a fly on the wall and meet some really cool coaches along the way. So really awesome, really proud of him. He didn't have a bad option of the 6 schools he narrowed it down to. So I guess, as they say in Tennessee, GBO.
You imagine you have Oklahoma, you have Oklahoma State, and you think, okay, you're a local here in Oklahoma. You think you have a little bit of ties with that, and you just never can count on that. So yeah, great. And we'll be able to see his stuff throughout the year. I'm going to talk to you a little bit what I did about Coach Brickman, as far as on the fly have to take me through your mind when you got that notification that, okay, that whole schedule that you think you were going to be working on for next year, that's not going to happen. And now with you and I think I saw your preliminary schedule, you were going to take on some 4A schools that you had for your non-district, and very similar to what Coach Brickman was saying. Okay, now we can't have that because they're in your district. So take me through what you had to do with those changes to now move back down to 4A.
Yeah, which once all this kind of started going down, I knew there was a shot that we would automatically lose 2 non-district games, which were Cache and Weatherford. And sure enough, we end up in district with them. So there's 2 right off the bat that we had to find, and then ended up having to find a third. So, and the crazy thing about it is it only affected, a handful of teams across the state moving classes. So a lot of a lot of people's non-districts didn't have that much movement like it would in a regular realignment. So, man, it was stressful to see where we were going to be, and then more, just more stress trying to find 3 non-district games. I mean, so you want to give your kids the opportunity to play 10 games for sure, but we got it done. We feel good about it. And once that all finalized, we're excited and ready to kind of start doing our research, because it's going to be a lot of new for us.
Now, most of this has been put out, so the schedules are locked in now that the OSSA is granted that the districts are as they are. And one thing that are because they're part of the OSN family, the MacArthur Highlanders were looking to their non-district schedule. That they play the 2 Lawton schools, and then they had Shawnee, and then Shawnee made a little switch at the end for MacArthur, and then a new rival, and we say because you're right outside the skirts of Lawton, and you've had 2 great matchups with them, beating them on their turf, in the first year at Cameron with that last-minute touchdown pass, and then this last fall, I mean, really made your statement there. So to get this in a 0 week, and that's kind of wow, okay, a 0 week matchup between these two. Talk a little bit about that and that new rivalry between you two.
Yeah, not only 0 week, but Thursday of 0 week. So I feel like it's next week. No, it's been really good. I mean, if you have viewed the games or came to the games the last 2 years, it's been packed out. I think we're less than 20 miles apart. There's been a little bit of our staff. We had Coach Baker come from MacArthur, but before we even played, we knew those guys, pretty well, just being in different classes, kind of picking brains in the off season on stuff. So, a lot of respect for them and what they do. And, it's been a packed house both years we've played it. And I'm glad that we got to work it out, to get them back on the schedule. I think it's good for both programs. So excited and looking forward to that.
Well, the fans are going to love it. And what Coach Brickman said, too, I'm sure your athletic programs like that because of the gate, the gate factor between those two, to be able to get fans in the stand and the excitement of football, because everything is so new and you really kind of want to put your best foot forward. And I got to appreciate both, Coach Manning, yourself, Coach Brickman, that don't shy away from is what you say, like in some college, okay, we're going to make sure we play cupcakes, Cinderella schedule, so we can make sure that we're ready for our district. And you kind of malign that, where I don't think you're as battle tested. And I think, you were thrown into 5A a couple of years ago, and now 4A, you're going to go back to what you said. You had the speed in 5A, but you get the physicality in the 4A, very physical teams. I think that is the last 2 years have kind of prepared you for this right now, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Like I told you the other day at practice, I feel like it's been so long since we played these teams. It's only been 2 years, but we had just been so focused on our schedule the last 2 years that we do have to re-familiarize ourselves with our opponents. But I think that the last 2 years has helped us. And so, but there's going to be a lot of different challenges going to where we're going. So, yes and no, new challenges, but we played some really good games the last 2 seasons. I hope that we can build on those, for our schedule this year.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being here. Coach Brickman for the Newcastle Racers, Coach Chalmer Wyatt for the Elgin Owls. And we're going to continue with our podcast with breaking down all the districts, because sometimes when I picked you two because I thought you guys had the biggest amount of change. We could have thrown Lawton in there as well because they're not familiar with coming back down for the first time, just like Midwest City did for a couple of years ago. And we used to have schools that would kind of bounce back and forth. Like Dell City was one that would always be a 6A to a 5A, back to a 6A, and now they've stayed in 5A. So maybe some of those communities have been solidified, but the growing communities such as yourselves, well, both Newcastle and Elgin on the go and growing, will continue with that. So I'm glad that you guys have adapted to your changes. And of course, we are going to be with you every step of the way. Can't wait to get this started. I know that Okay, now I got to have summer. Now, what am I going to do for the next couple of months? I know you guys have your summer workouts and whatnot, but I'm ready to get this started. I'm sure you guys are too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you both. I'm going to take both of you gentlemen that joined our podcast for episode 5 for the point after, but I do want to be able to add some of these that we're going to talk about, and we'll throw this up on the screen. You're going to be able to see that for those who are watching on YouTube, and for those who are just joining us, we're talking about the realignment of all the districts. And if you look at this, and because it's a podcast and a lot of it's going to be an audio, we're going to go 6A1 and 6A2. Now, 6A1, the top side of the bracket in District 1 has the following: Bixby, Deer Creek, Edmond North, Enid, Jinx, Moore, Mustang, and Norman. And then over in District 2, representing is Broken Arrow, Edmond Memorial, Edmond Santa Fe, Norman North, Owasso, Union, Westmore, and Yukon. And then over in District 1 of 6A2, and you get those of the 16 teams, you've got Choctaw and Eisenhower. Eisenhower is coming up from 5A. They're going to come up to the 6A2 rank now for the first time. Northwest Classen, Piedmont, Putnam City, Southmore, Stillwater, and U.S. Grant. And then over in District 2 and 6A2, Bartlesville, Capitol Hill, Muskogee, PC North, PC West, Ponca City, Sand Springs, and Sapulpa. So out of that, the big change for OSN followers is Eisenhower coming from the 5A ranks, going to 6A2. All right, let's break down to 5A. And again, for those who are watching, can see it on the screen, and I'll just run down for those who are listening audio only for this edition. District 1 will feature Bishop McGuinness, Classen SAS, Duncan. Guyman is in the district, but they are going to do an independent schedule. So if the teams don't fill in a slot, that means they're going to have a week off. And if they play 0 week, they're going to have 2 bye weeks. So Guyman, even though they're in the district, they're going to play an independent schedule. Then Lawton MacArthur, Midwest City, Newcastle, brand new to the 5A ranks, coming up from 4A, and then Southeast. A change in District 2, where Carl Albert has dominated there because Bishop McGuinness has moved to District 1. Altus has switched, and Altus is now out of District 1 into District 2. So it's Altus, Carl Albert, El Reno, Guthrie, John Marshall, Lawton, and that's the Wolverines coming from 6A2 down to 5A, Noble, and Western Heights. So we've got a lot of change in our OSN teams. And then over on the east side, Bishop Kelly, Booker T. Washington, Coweta, Durant, East Central, Edison Prep, McAllister, and Shawnee, and that's in District 3. And that's where Del City will be now from District 3. They're going to move to District 4. That's where Claremore, Collinsville, Del City, Nathan Hale, Pryor, Tahlequah, Tulsa Memorial, and Will Rogers. And so that is the rundown of your 5A opponents. Okay, 4A, we'll start with the 4 districts that we have in 4A. In District 1, we'll find this is where a lot of our OSN teams are located, with Elgin and Cache. Joining them is Bridge Creek, Clinton, Douglas, Elk City, Weatherford, and Woodward. Ardmore, which was a 5A District 1 opponent for so many years, for those who are familiar following MacArthur, they're in District 2 of 4A. So it's Ardmore, Bethany, Blanchard, Chickasha, Hara, Medill, Tecumseh, and Tuttle. And boy, that is a district, and that's where Newcastle kind of was familiar with coming out of that. Over on the east side for District 3, Catoosa, Cushing, Fort Gibson, Grove, Miami, Oologah, Skiatook, and Wagner. Then Ada, Broken Bow, Glenpool, Hilldale, McLean, Poteau, Salisaw, and Stillwell. And that is the district matchups for 4A. Going over to 3A in District 1, you'll have Anadarko, Heritage Hall, Kingfisher, North Rock Creek, Pauls Valley, Plainview, Purcell, and Star Spencer. And then you'll have in District 2, Bristow, Lone Grove, Manford, McLeod, Perkins, Tryon, Seminole, Sulphur, and Victory Christian. A lot of private schools find themselves in here, and this is instead of the 2 school or class move up, it's back to the 1. So you have Shakota, Eufaula, Holland Hall, Idabel, Lincoln Christian, Locust Grove, Muldrow, and Stigler all in District 3. District 4 will find Berry Hill, Cascia Hall, Claremore, Sequoia, Cleveland, Inola, Jay, Verdigris, and Veneta. And as we said in the beginning of this podcast, something new, not only the change of who is going where in districts, but we had 6A divide with 6A1 and 6A2. The smaller schools, because of the amount, will follow suit. And so now in 2A schools, you're going to have 4 districts with Blackwell, Chisholm, Crooked Oak, Jones, Millwood, Mount St. Mary, Oklahoma Christian School, and Perry. And then District 2, Crossing Christian, Dickinson, Lexington, Lindsay, Little Axe, Marietta, Marlow, and Washington. District 3 will find Bethel, Heavener, Hugo, Kiefer, Kingston, Okmulgee, Prague, and Roland. And District 4 with Chandler, Daniel Webster, Dewey, Metro Christian, Sequoia, Tahlequah, Sperry, Tulsa Central, and Westville. So that is a rundown of all the classes. Keeping up with this, and I got to say, the OSSA has really done a good job of kind of putting talent, when you had the 6A1 and 6A2, for years and years, the complaints were, well, they're 1 school and we're 3. And you really couldn't fairly say the 1 school needed to divide to multiple schools, just as it would be unfair to say the multiple schools who have history and tradition need to combine to make 1 school. So I think the big compromise, and it gets you another state champion, is to have 6A1 and 6A2. Well, now 2A, they are doing the same thing. B, same thing. C is the only one that's going to, and they're small enough just to have the 1 that they won't have to worry about adding or splitting up those. But really hats off to all of the hard efforts to get that done. So if you're exhausted, I am too, of just kind of following that. And you're going to find your favorite school with their schedules that are coming out. We talked to both Coach Jeff Brickman of Newcastle and Chalmer Wyatt of Elgin of what they had to do for their non-district schedule. Some schools didn't really have to go for this mad dash of trying to find new opponents or separate from their non-district schedule, but they make it work, and they make it work quite well. Well, if you have not downloaded our free app, make sure you do so on the Oklahoma Sports Network. You can find us on Apple and Android devices. That's the best way you can connect to us instantly. You don't have to worry about finding a school's website or their YouTube or Facebook page. When you're on the network, and all of our schools on the network, you can bounce back and forth as quickly and with ease just by downloading the app. We're also on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. You can download it to your home device. So if you are away and not can be there, or actually watch it on demand, you can watch it in your home sets on all of those 3 platforms. And then join us on all of our social media connection, whether it be Facebook, it's X, it's Instagram, it's YouTube. We're there as well. And TikTok, we'll throw that in there as long as it lasts. So have all those that just search the Oklahoma Sports Network, and you can connect to us social media wise. Then that way we can get the word out of who we're going to have. We're going to have a big announcement of some schools that are going to be added to the Oklahoma Sports Network that we're finalizing and going to make a big explosion this summer to talk about our expansion as well. So we're excited to get the season start. We already finished with our 8 seasons of the Oklahoma Sports Network, and this coming August we'll enter into season number 9 with girls sports and then all of football, home and away. So for Chalmer Wyatt for the Elgin Owls, for Jeff Brickman from the Newcastle Racers, my name is Eric Sherham. This is episode 5 of the Point After podcast, and you have been watching a presentation of the Oklahoma Sports Network.